Yo, let me turn my camera on so I can see my fine self. Yo, what is cracking, my people? Welcome to yet another episode. Get the mic up in here of ADQ'S Renaissance. I'm your host with the most, keeping it 100 from coast to coast through God our boast. ADQ. It is Thursday. And for all of us workers, it's not Thursday. It's Friday Eve. It is Thursday, March the 10th. 2022. I'm telling you, this year is going by faster than a crack baby. But anyway, welcome to ADQ's Renaissance. I am A to the D to the Q. I'm gonna try that. Did y'all like my new thing? I like that. I'm into that little lo-fi. Y'all like that? Like that? Thumbs up. Anyway, yo, tonight is gonna be dope. Excuse me. I'm sorry y'all had to hear that. First of all, I want to shout out brother Braxton Allen for coming through the other day, talking about his musical theater journey. Got me dusting on some pipes, seeing if I could sing for someone. Now, we were talking about the play I'm tripping, that Braxton is in, Children of Eden, which will be over at Spring Theater. Yes, Spring Theater. Shout out to everybody at Spring Theater. Dan, Aaron, love y'all. Children of Eden is a beautiful musical with music and lyrics by Stephen Schwartz and a book by John Caird. The musical is based in the book of Genesis, with Act 1 telling the story of Adam and Eve, Cain and Abel, while Act 2 deals with Noah and the flood. Now, tickets are $15. It'll be at the Southeastern Center for Contemporary Art. To get the dates are April 1st through 3rd. Friday, April 1st, April Fool's Day, 7 p.m., Saturday at 2 p.m. and 7 p.m., Sunday at 2 p.m. Yes. So get your tickets over at springtheater.org. You get your tickets there. And while you're getting tickets to incredible dope shows, I highly encourage you all to check out my man, James Lyons. James Lyons is a master. You know what I'm saying? This 48 law of power says, never outshine the master and never knock down your mic while you're getting excited about a play. Go check out James Lyons presents The Pressure of the Pandemic. The pandemic has been full of pressure. It'll be over at Goodwill Baptist Church, 542 Goodwill Road, Clemens, North Carolina. Tickets are $25 in advance. Doors open at 6:30 p.m. For more info, contact 336-695-7134. I'm going to be there. Y'all should be there. Pull up. I've worked with James Lyons before. Do you know how it is? Staying in character while sharing the stage with that guy. It is hard. It is hard. Speaking of hard, that was probably the wrong way to go with this. But check out Flow. Flow is an upcoming night of spoken word. If you know ADQ, you know ADQ puts the words together, and we about to tap into a young lady who puts words together quite beautifully. I'm going to tell you about her in a minute. But first, check out Flow by Shantae Renee Woody. Shout out to her. Tickets are $10 through $60 within their range. Friday, March 25th, 2022, 7 o'clock to 11 o'clock. I'm going to be in the building. Pull up. Passion Fusion Grill, 2618 Lawndale Drive, Greensboro, North Carolina. Pull up. And last but not least, my play. If you don't come to my play, I'm going to punch you in the face. May I Borrow a Dollar? Lawrence Kirwan. S. Elizabeth Carroll. They're going to hate me for mispronouncing their names, but hey, they'll get over it. Michelle Wright. Shantae Renee making her acting debut. Your boy will be in it. Written, produced, directed by yours truly. Camel City Playhouse. April 29th, 2022. Camel City Playhouse. 110 West 7th Street, Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Pull up. Check me out. I'm doing my thing. And the cost is free. Come through, check me out with a suggested donation of $10 because do remember, I am an independent nonprofit entity. Okay, enough about all that. Now let's get into our guest. She's one of the reasons why we celebrate Women's History Month because, women's history is incredible history. You know what I'm saying? Just women out here doing things, breaking down the chains of this patriarchal society that we live in and changing the narrative. And sometimes you have to chase in order to change the narrative. She is a chaser of life. Based out of North Carolina, she has written professionally for 10 years. It's a job she loves and all of his jolly. Solitary jollity. Is jollity even a word? Hey, she can create a word. That's what we writers do. And all in collaborative fervor. She has written a wide variety of topics because she has a wide variety of interests. Sounds like someone who I know very well. From competitive martial arts. That's right, friends. I'm going to be nice to her because she can kick my butt. To politics. God. Why does she do that to herself? Parenting. I have nothing about that. I don't know nothing about that. So, civil rights. Heck yeah, civil rights. I know a little something about civil rights. Tattoo equipment? SEO? What the heck is SEO? We're going to find out. Long form content is her bread and butter for the past several years. Having worked extensively as a ghost writer. Now, she can ghostwrite all she wants to, but if you're a rapper and you out here ghostwriting, you should be ashamed of yourself. No ghostwriting for rappers. So, who want to make their dream of being an author of reality. Before becoming a writer, she taught middle school and special education. Shout out to the EC department. For that, she worked in marketing. Her undergraduate degree is women's health from the University of North Carolina, Asheville, and that liberal arts foundation gave her the perspective on what it means to live in the world and create change for the better. Heck yeah. She got her master's degree in teaching at Western Carolina a few years later. That's right. Student loans. Whoa! Driven from the master in business program to work that she found to be more meaningful. That's right, my people. Do work in this one life that you have to live that is more meaningful. So, she is the superstar, mother of the year of 4 wonderful children, Yeats, Jude, Hermione, and Virgil. Did she really name one of them kids after a Harry Potter character? Lord. So, as we move to this biography, her interests vary from martial arts, where she could kick the living snot at me. She's an underbelt champion in women's sparring, to social justice, where she volunteers with local political campaigns. Friend, my people, I first met this incredible writer, this adjunct professor at High Point University, when we were supposed to do this show called, oh my God, I forgot. Man, what is going on with my brain tonight? It was a Shakespeare joint. Man, we would have torn up the Shakespeare stage. Anyway, please welcome to ADQ'S Renaissance, Miss Autumn Karen. Autumn, what's up, yo?
Hold on, let me get my camera's like not there. There we go.
Good. I was about to say, good. It gives me time to figure out what Shakespeare show were we supposed to do. Show.
I cannot remember it. I was thinking about this earlier today, and it's like Beatrice was the lead. You can Google it, Adrian. That's horrible. It's been 2 years. Much Ado About Nothing? Is that it?
Yes. Much Ado About Nothing. Yeah, I was supposed to be Baraccio. Man. But, man.
Immersive Shakespeare does not go well with a pandemic, man. It's just not.
Yeah, because, with the pandemic going on, everybody's saying, you say over there, don't touch me. Don't touch me. Don't breathe on me. Don't even look at me. But there's lots of breathing and touching and looking when it comes to Shakespeare. But anyway, Autumn, how are you doing?
I'm good. As everybody who knows me knows, I don't slow down. So I'm running in a million directions. And if my 7-year-old comes in begging for tacos. Y'all will know. Y'all get to see all that. So,
You know
7-year-old,
what?
9-year-old. I don't even know how old my kids are anymore, Adrian.
You know what? I deal with 7-year-olds begging for tacos all the time. It's gotten to the point where you can have a taco. Sure, you can have a taco. Hey, definitely you can have a taco. No more tacos. You say one more thing. You better not even say tac to me. Okay? You better say shell with lettuce in it. Don't say tacos to me. I promise none of that's real. None of that's true.
It's all good. We believe you, Adrian.
That's right. So you said, so I read in your biography that you got your start in North Carolina. Where in North Carolina?
So I'm originally from a little town called Roanoke Rapids, which is
Who?
Roanoke Rapids. It's east. It's like on the Virginia border. And so I grew up there, and then I moved to Greensboro. I was in Greensboro for like a year, did some of my undergrad at UNCG, and then I moved to Asheville, and I was in and around Asheville for 20 years before I moved back to Greensboro to finish raising my children. So there you go.
I heard that Asheville is like this super artsy, super hipster area. I need you to give some credence to this because I've only been in Asheville once. Is it?
So Asheville is very artsy, and it's fantastic, and I'm really glad that I lived there for like all those years. But it is also very small. So I would not say that it is more artsy than Greensboro. I wouldn't call it any more of like doesn't have any more advocates. It's not any more of like a protest town or a social justice awareness kind of place than Greensboro. It's just kind of known for that, but it's a small community. It's lovely. I have lots of friends still up there.
I'm from a small town, and I could do without the small communities. Thank you very much. I'll probably go in, have a cup of coffee, and then go about my business.
Absolutely.
Now I gotta ask you. So let's compare writing stories here. I started writing. My passion for writing actually started at the age of 7. You know, I got bit by that theater bug. It bit me deep, right? There's still a mark on my arm. I wasn't only thinking about performing on stage, but I also thought about writing, right? I was like, yo, how can I write? How can I direct something, right? Didn't really get into it until I was like in my late 20s. Well, no, that's a lie. I actually started writing when I was 14, writing rap lyrics and trying to impress my friends. Oh yeah. There's a whole rap side of me that a lot of y'all theater people don't even know. So that's my writing story. How did you find your voice through this one right here?
So I was a theater kid too, like super theater kid, did all of this stuff, did a ton of community theater. I majored in acting at UNCG for a year before I left. I was a big marching band kid, so just like I do now, I did a whole lot of stuff. And I did like musicals and song and dance, like the whole thing. And then when I went to college, I let go of all that because when I moved to Asheville, I decided I wanted to have like more meaning in my life. And I was like, well, acting doesn't feel like a profession that does good in the world, like materially. Like I wanted to go like do activism and that kind of stuff. So my undergrad in women's health is actually an undergraduate in women's studies, but UNC Asheville did not have an independent women's studies degree. So I ended up Frankensteining. I made up my undergraduate degree. There's like a process you can do that. So I did all this activism and was really into that. Protested a bunch of wars, was on steering committees for protests, did all that stuff. And then after undergrad, I went and worked corporate, and that's my marketing background. And yeah, I kind of had this winding road, Adrian, I have an undergraduate in women's health, and my doctoral work is in clinical psychology. I didn't finish my doctorate, but I did a what?
I'm gonna call you doctor anyway.
No, that is not fair because I have my friends who graduated from my cohort. They are amazing, and they did it's a whole process. But I did a year, and then in my bio, you mentioned my daughter Hermione. She passed away during my first year of my PhD, and that was just like a lot. And so I stepped away from my doctoral work. So yeah, so that's how I actually ended up becoming a full-time writer because of her. So she had severe disabilities, and I was already writing to like help pay the bills because we had 4 kids, and that's a whole lot of kids, Adrian. So I was writing to lesson plans and blogs and stuff to help support our family. And then I ended up this blog. I'd been blogging for a while and writing ebooks and stuff. And this blog out of California hired me full time to be their full time marketing person and writer. And they specialized in special needs stuff. So the last year that she was home before she died, I was actually a full time writer, and I was able to be home with her. And which we didn't know she was going to pass away. She didn't have that kind of disability. It kind of bam out of nowhere. So that's how I became a writer. And then after she passed away and I walked away from my PhD, I was already writing full time. So I just pivoted away from writing for special needs. That's a story in and of itself as to how that all went down. But yeah, so that's how I became a writer. I really like put it at the feet of Hermione.
Well, first of all, I read that in your biography, but now I feel bad about the whole Harry Potter stuff I said. Oh
no, are you kidding?
Myself.
The best joke, we had this amazing nurse at Duke when she was in Duke, and Hermione had 2 brothers because she has a younger brother, but my 2 older kids. And we go in, we had this British nurse, and she said, "Oh, I saw her name was Hermione. Are her brothers Harry and Ron?" It's like, no, her brothers are not Harry and Ron, but that's hilarious. So,
well, well, I'm very happy that that you speak of it very lighthearted like that, which plays more into your strength. And I want to tell you, as much as I love theater, anyone who knows me knows that I love theater so much. Love theater almost as much as I love my locks. However, I do have moments where I'm like, yeah, I'm reading this script, I'm learning these lines and stuff, but I don't know. I feel like, my energy could be better used in other places, like reading a book, like this dope book, this incredible book right here, or speaking out against things, or educating people about other things. So, while I usually tell anybody who gets in the theater, you're stuck for life. There's also times where you just want to put the script down and put whatever creative energy that you have elsewhere. What are the call? You said protesting a couple of wars. I assume that I'm going to assume that we're both. I know that we're both like in the same age group, right? I'm 36. I'm not asking how you are. That's
rude. No, I'm 40. I got no qualms about talking about my age, man.
Okay, what? Dang it. You're from the South too. You know how we get down here. We don't ask women their ages.
Yeah, no. Let's fight ageism. It's okay to be old.
You're not old.
It's all good.
But my point is, the wars that I remember are the Persian Gulf War. From the time we were coming up, the Persian Gulf War, the war in Iran, and the war in Iraq. No, the war in Afghanistan and the war in Iraq. And now I'm really hoping that Biden don't send the troops into Ukraine. So, but you probably know more wars than I do. I'm sorry, but one of your interests are politics. One of my interests are politics. But you say you were protesting that. What are other stuff that you were protesting?
So we were I went out and I protested the Iraq War and the Afghani War, specifically because Iraq was, it was all about the WMDs and all about, W taking us into that war under false pretenses to avenge his dad and all that. So I used to stand out on street corners with signs, and this was right after, was like 2002, not too long after 9/11. I was on a steering committee like down in Raleigh. Like this is like a long time ago. And did that. And then I'm an ethical vegetarian. And I was vegan for many years. Yeah. So vegan for many years. And so I was involved in protests surrounding animal rights and women's rights and just like, super politically minded. I got into disability advocacy with my daughter. And so Hermione and I, we did a lot of that stuff. We met some politicians. We like got on the news a couple of times. It was fun when she was a little tiny because, the state of special needs in America is pretty atrocious and the support that folks get is pretty atrocious. And so my master's is in special ed. So I've done some of that advocacy work, like helping families with IEPs and that kind of thing. Because it's a hard system to navigate. So there you go.
You said what type of vegetarian you said you were?
I was a vegan for many years. I slipped back. I was vegan for like 15, 17 years, something like that. And then after Hermione was born, it was complicated because she had to have all this stuff, Adrienne. She had to have formula because she was so underweight and she was so small. And there's no such thing as like vegan formula that a doctor will give you in the NICU. It all has milk in it. And so at that point, it was kind of the choice that she had to have formula because breast milk wasn't enough, even though I was pumping. So that was when the veganism broke, was when she was in the NICU, because like you couldn't keep that boundary. So there's all these ethical questions that you don't really think about, right? I was so concerned about not supporting things that had animal products in them and all that. And then you get thrown into the neonatal intensive care unit with a child and you don't really have a choice about, it's their life and death choices. So, yeah, that's how I haven't been a hardcore vegan in a long time. I'm mostly vegan these days, but yeah.
Well, I was wondering because see, I'm a vegetarian. I know I don't look like one, but I am one.
Oh, whatever.
Oh, thank you. You are so kind. So we're here. So we're here in North Carolina. People this side of the Mason-Dixon line. A lot of people hunt, right? I know people who have posted pictures of them of deer and all that good stuff. And while I'm not an animal rights advocate, I cannot help but sometimes think to myself, what if the tables were turned and the deer came into our homes, popped us full of hot lead, ate our bodies, and put our heads up on the wall? How would we feel about that?
Absolutely, man.
I once saw a video of a bull crying before being killed. So not only that, but once when I briefly worked at Whole Foods, I walked by the meat department, saw all of the meat and stuff, and this is what goes on in my head. A lot of my relatives think I'm crazy, but it's this thing. People think like this. I walked by the case full of meat and stuff. While people saw food, I saw a graveyard.
Yeah.
I saw a Tarantino movie.
It's definitely that way, Adrienne, and I am not as virulent in my activism as I used to be. I make a mean tofu turkey on Thanksgiving from scratch. That's like my thing. But I was so like disgusted by it when I had all those revelations. I was actually at UNCG. It's my freshman year of college when I first went vegetarian. And you can't help but see it everywhere, and it becomes a little all-consuming. And it's interesting because my kids are all 3 vegetarians, and they're all old enough now that like they can make their choice. My 16-year-old, if he didn't want to be a vegetarian, I'm like, if you want to eat meat, that is on you. Like I can't. I'm not going to buy it for you, but if you go eat it with your friends. So It's tough though. I know that I'm a little bit desensitized to the whole thing just because I feel like I can't hold that brain space and be functional in the rest of my life. I would just like lay in bed crying about animal abuse if I allowed myself to do that.
I hate the thought. I would hate the thought of you crying, Autumn.
Thank you, Adrian. That's sweet.
You're welcome. Hey, we Virgos, we're sweet people. At least we try. We can be overly analytical. Speaking of brain space and being analytical, how do you how let's talk about writing now. How do you find the words for these different topics? Like I would say, like I would tell anybody, if you want to write on a certain subject, make sure that you are educated about the subject matter. Like if you're gonna write a period piece, for example, if I was gonna write something about the Harlem Renaissance, I would need to make sure to. Dang, I just gave myself a great idea. Anyway, I would need to make sure that I am familiar and knowledgeable about every nook and cranny that took place during the Harlem Renaissance, right?
Do you
So,
though?
so what?
I don't think you do. I think that's not fair.
The Harlem
No?
Renaissance took place 100 years ago. It was in a part of the country that I've never actually been in. I've never been in Harlem, unfortunately. I would like to go one day. It was a completely different time and completely different culture that I know. I mean, if I just start writing and say, "Hey, there was music. Hey, there was poetry. Hey, there were other artists." That's all I got.
Well, let me preface this by saying that I have the luxury of being a ghostwriter, which means that I very rarely write things that are just like out of my own head. So I always get street cred, and I don't have a. Where's my copy of it? Across the room somewhere. Like I was looking to see if I had a copy of one of the books that I've written, but they're not on my shelf. They're over there. So
You
I have this luxury of I get instant street cred when I write because I'm writing for someone who has that experience, right? So for instance, and I can't talk about it, but I write a top blog on the internet for a topic that I have no experience with, like essentially no experience with. And I've been writing this blog for 7 years, and we're like the #1 blog on the internet on this specific topic. It's a great gig. I love the people. I love the people. It's just like it's a great subject. And I had to be that vague because I've written books for them, done all kinds of stuff for them. But I don't know really anything about this topic other than what I have like researched over the years. I've literally only like been in person with this thing like 3 times maybe. So you can come up with a lot from research and then really from being adjacent to someone who has that experience. So like when I ghost wrote my currently my most like my biggest piece is this book that I wrote for James Hart, who was a black preacher who took over the KKK from Edgar Ray Killen. Yeah, I know, right? While they were in prison together in Mississippi. And
What?
yeah, I know, right? And so I am very clearly not a black man from Compton. Like that's not my life experience. But I wrote James's book. And the reason I was able to write his book is because he gave me his firsthand experience. So if you are interested in writing about a topic, my suggestion is to go find people who have firsthand knowledge. That's much better than than like reading about it or doing research.
Mhm.
So you go talk to people. And Harlem Renaissance might be a tough one, but at the same time, it depends on the spin that you want to take on that. Right, Adrian? If you want to write something that is about somebody who is of a similar experience to you, like an artist in Harlem, and you want to create a piece of historical fiction, it doesn't have to be perfectly historically accurate. You're not like writing a history book. You're writing a piece of fiction. So let it be fictional. And that's okay.
I have permission from Autumn Karen to be historically inaccurate in some writings, somewhat.
Well, I mean, history is kind of inaccurate to begin with. And I can say with confidence, because I ghostwritten for a lot of people, that like I write stuff into people's books. And for the most part, it's like real, but I will write things out of my own imagination. And then the person will say, "Oh, yeah, that's right." But I've described things from my imagination that aren't necessarily exactly true to life because I wasn't there. So if I describe the color of the wallpaper or something to make a book come alive, that's out of my imagination. It's very rare that somebody will remember that detail.
Mhm.
So, so same thing with a book about the Harlem Renaissance, man. Just write it.
Okay.
And if you're nervous about it, let a historian read it and let them say, you could pay people to do that. You can pay a historical editor to do that
How
and
much?
pick it apart and say, this is wrong, that's wrong, you need to fix that.
Before I move on to my next question, there really was a black man who became the leader of the KKK?
There was James Hart Stern. He was imprisoned wrongly for check fraud, and he ends up in prison in Parchman, Mississippi, because of his federal charge of wire fraud. And he ends up in a hospital ward. And James was a black preacher from Compton. He and Edgar Ray Killen, who is the man behind the Mississippi burning murders, who, gave some of the explosives that blew up Martin Luther King's house. He was this kind of icon of white supremacy. So he ends up in a prison cell with Edgar Ray Killen and strikes up this. It is not a friendship. James would never have called it a friendship, but he strikes up this relationship with Killen. And there's some extraordinary things. He saves Killen from having to eat shit in the cafeteria where the other prisoners, put crap in his spaghetti, and James keeps Killen from having to eat it. He does all of these things, and so throughout the course of this relationship that they have, Killen writes these extraordinary letters to James, 33 of them, 32, 33. The number escapes me, where he confesses to further murders, and he, details his experience as a white supremacist. And by the end of their time together, Killen and the current head of the KKK at the time get together on a phone call, and they decide that it would be really good to have a black head of the KKK, because who can call you racist if there's a black guy in charge, right? So they signed over the KKK to James, the largest KKK organization in the United States. And when James got out of prison, he disbanded it. The funny thing, though, and this is the thing that's crazy, is that several years later, right after the Charlottesville rally happened, James gets contacted by the head of the largest neo-Nazi group in the United States, Jeff Scoop, and ends up negotiating with him. And so he did it again. Scoop signed over the largest neo-Nazi group in America to this black guy. And he did it again. So James was extraordinary. I actually have enough recorded to write another book. He passed away from bladder cancer in 2019, which was a horrible loss to the world. But yeah, there you go, Adrian.
That is an Academy Award-winning film waiting to be made. Well, I don't know, because Spike Lee and the dude wrote. Yeah, I forgot his name. I'm forgetting everything. Anyway,
Jordan Peele, man. Jordan Peele.
Yeah, Jordan Peele. Thank you, Jordan Peele. They already did Get Out. I mean, not Get Out. Black Klansman.
Yeah, Black Klansman. It was very similar, like a different kind of thing. But yeah.
Dang. Wow. I never thought of that. Yo, anyway, moving on. Thank you for that story, but this is about your story.
Well, I wrote his book. James is a very dear friend. He was really close, got me through hard times. We worked together through hard times. He was just an extraordinary person, and it was a horrible loss to the world that he's gone. But
sounds like I would love to have, man. I would. Okay. Sorry, I felt the sneeze coming. Sorry, someone. There it is.
Bless you.
Thank you. Sound like someone who I would like to admit. Now you talk about ghostwriting. Did you hear in my intro how I was talking junk about rappers who have ghostwriters?
Yes.
You say it like you've actually written for a rapper before.
No, I haven't. But I mean, people write other people's stuff all the time, man. It's a myth. Dude, like I write speeches, like I write wedding speeches.
Who is
Like
the most famous person you ever written for?
Pardon me?
Who's the most famous person you ever written for?
So I could not tell you that because I have non-disclosure agreements.
Dang them NDAs.
Yeah. So, but James's book is definitely the highest profile piece I've ever done. I do have a book coming out. It's been out electronically for a while that I was commissioned to write. It's a feminist erotica novel. That's a little bit of what we call it. And the audiobook, all that comes out on April 1st. So that's fun. But it was written in collaboration. I was hired by a West End producer to write it. So yeah. So that's a little bit of a different thing. I'm always hustling and doing things.
Yes, you are. Your brain goes in. Okay, what's your writing process? Like, how do you sit back and say, okay, I'm going to do this? How do you get yourself started?
Well, first of all, let me say the pandemic was brutal on everybody. So I have a couple of book projects that they're still hanging out there. So from the pandemic. But my process is definitely to outline. So I always create outlines, and when I coach people, I coach them to outline because I think it makes it easier. So when you create an outline, you can kind of see the wide view of a story, and you can plan those arcs, and you can plan what is this piece going to look like. So the outlining process is really important to me, and when I outline a book, I outline it down to the word count. Now, it doesn't always stay to that word count, but I like chapters that are 2,000 to 3,000 words. I think that's like a sweet spot. I was actually telling that to a coaching client today. And so I'll plan out the chapters. And occasionally, I write a lot of memoirs. So there's always the question of how do you structure it? Do you go chronologically? Do you start in the present and flash back to the past? How does that look? So I'll structure it, that way. Most memoirs are pretty chronological. That's just how it tends to go. And then I'll sit down and start writing chapters, whatever appeals to me. When I coach people to write, I'm like, you don't have to start at the beginning. You can start with the place that's most appealing. So I was coaching last fall this woman who was working on a fiction book, and it had all of these pieces, think Cloud Atlas, that's all over the place. And so she did not write it linearly. I coached her through so she would pick a section and write this one section, and then she would kind of jump around. So, that's what it all depends on. I wrote a Western historical fiction novel that really just blasted through. Sometimes that kind of fiction is really fun to write. Fiction tends to be easier, I think, than it just depends. Sometimes fiction's easier, sometimes nonfiction's easier.
With fiction you can actually be a lot more creative.
Yeah, but with nonfiction you have
nonfiction, you gotta tell, you can't be inaccurate the entire time.
Yeah, but then you can Google it. So there's this whole thing of people ask me, well, should I write this book? And I'm always like, hell yes, you should write the book. They're like, well, somebody's written about it before. Yes, but you have not ever written that.
I gotta ask you this. As a writer, as a professional writer, who has a Pulitzer Prize in her future, how much Googling do you actually do?
A lot. So everything that I do is either based on stuff that I Google or stuff that I've read or interviews. So most of what I do is based on interviews because you interview somebody and then you turn that into a book. But then when I'm writing nonfiction, I write a lot of stuff for the internet because it pays the bills and it's kind of nothing box space. So the top blog that I write on this topic, I Google all that I Google that stuff all the time. Reddit is an amazing source of information. If you want a topic, if you want to find out something about a topic and you want a unique spin on it, if you go look for it in Reddit, it's like all there.
I want to know. See, when I looked at your biography and saw civil rights, I have an interest in civil. I have a interest in civil rights. For obvious reasons. What writings about civil rights have you delved into or provided?
So that's James's book for sure. Mississippi Still Burning. So I wrote that piece. I have another book that has my name on it it's about 9/11 it's about terrorism and all those kinds of things. That certainly has some themes of that in it. But I would call it more activism. So civil rights, definitely, I give James all the credit for the interest that I have in that. And, I'm a white woman. And so I recognize my privilege. And I'm not here to step into a place that I don't belong. What I am here to do, though, is to lift up writers of color and to give them as much support as I can, because I recognize I'm sitting here because of all this privilege that I have. I could walk into degree programs that people of color just didn't have those same opportunities. So
have you written about that?
A little bit. Really, that's more of like the work that I do with coaching, that kind of thing. Because there is a finesse to it. Not a finesse. That is a really unfair word. There is an access to it, and white folks tend to have a gumption about them and an assumption that we just belong, which is unfair because people of color should belong too. They've been historically excluded. So I recognize that confidence that I have has a lot to do with being in dominant culture. So yeah.
First of all, you definitely need to come see my play that I'm putting up on April 29th. Oh yes. Second of all, it's you want to know something crazy. This day and age. So what?
Tell me all the crazy things, Adrian.
All right, here's something crazy. You ready for this? This day and age, I hear the most junk talking about white people from white people. What will? I'll ask you. You've been white for a pretty long time, for a decent amount of time. Why is that?
When you say white people talking junk about white people, like what kind of junk?
You expect me to repeat that from my black mouth?
No, I don't expect you to repeat it. I mean, in what context? Like, what's the context? Because like white people do talk a lot of junk about white people. Because I don't know, white people just talk a lot of junk in general.
Okay, well that makes sense. Well, like I once heard. Okay, so once I was out with a friend, once I was hanging out with a friend and her friend, boyfriend, whoever the heck he was. Anyway, and I just listened to both of them just completely slaughter the white race, and I just happened to have a small Uncle Ruckus moment, just a small Uncle Ruckus moment. And I pull up my phone and I say, "Y'all, look at this camera. You talking junk about all these white people. Guess what? Y'all are white."
So like it's a thing. The thing with it is like I recognize racism like where I grew up and where I came from, and then I also recognize it where I see it like out in the world.
Right.
And I certainly think that white folks have value. I am the mother of 3 white children, 3 white boys. So all 3 of my boys come from educated parents, and they have their own stuff. They lost their sister when they were little. They have like their own trauma, and I get that. But at the same time, they still walk in privilege everywhere they go. So I think that those 2 things can exist at the same time. I can love my kids and say, I want you all to have success and I believe in you, and I think you have something amazing to offer to the world, because my kids are freaking amazing and they have something to offer to the world. They have a unique point of view and they deserve to be heard. However, you can see the entitlement creep in everywhere. Like, they just assume that they belong in spaces, right? Whereas I am really like, you need to hustle and you need to work hard, and you are not owed a grade in school. You are not owed a place in an after school activity. You need to get your stuff and work just as hard as everybody else has to work, right? Because then you earn it, and it feels better if you earn it.
I'll be honest with you. Oh yeah, when I was working at Whole Foods, that was like dang, what's the word that you just said? You know, oh my God, what is happening to my 36-year-old brain? Entitlement. Oh, tons and tons and tons of entitlement around there. I'm like, yo, you're not God. And speaking of God, this is way I view it. I'm black, man. I love being black. I'm proud of my culture 100%. I'm proud of my Africanity. I wear it proudly. Love my culture, all that good stuff, but I just don't have it in me to dislike anyone based off of their outer appearance. Just don't have it in me. I mean, for one thing, that's a misrepresentation of that's a misrepresentation of my creator. And also, I believe that you get the energy that you put out there. If that sounds like karma, I guess so. Yeah, I believe that whatever you put out there, you get back in some way. That's why I try to be a nice guy. And I do things like ask incredible artists about their art. So incredible artists, since it's Women's History Month, would you mind sharing a little bit of women's history that your average everyday Joe wouldn't know about? Just any random thing.
An average piece of women's history that
your average Joe wouldn't even know about.
Well, women couldn't have a bank account without a man until the 1970s. I mean, that's a piece of women's history that most people don't realize.
Dang.
Yeah. Not in all of there were places in the United States where women could, but I think it's 1973, 1974 that women could not legally have a bank account in all 50 states without a man's name on it. So,
wow.
It's a whole thing, you know, and currently, you know, without the Equal Rights Amendment, it's not mandated that women can be in every part of our government. Women couldn't wear pants in Congress until the 90s. Like, it's legit. So there's a lot that, like, we're not done, like, fighting. And even, like, I look at my boys and, you know, I think about my own undergraduate degree in women's studies. And now it's called a gender studies. It's not even women's studies anymore. It's gender studies. Something that people don't think about too much with the Equal Rights Amendment is currently we have the draft, right? And men 18 years or older, and now we're facing potential conflict, thanks to all of Putin and all of that. You know, women can't be drafted. And that's like the flip side of the ERA. So that whole thing, you know, we're just missing gender parity so much. People talk about the pay gap. The pay gap, I think, has a lot less to do with women's, like, pay as we think about it, but the real pay gap comes in childcare. And I can say that as a mom of 4 kids who has done the bulk of the childcare and also had the financial responsibilities. There are times when my kids are not home, when they're away with their dad. They're with me most of the time. And I can see how much more I can get done, even though they're older. You know, the burden of childcare on mothers is huge. And it's, like, documented. It's called the second shift. It's how women do more work at home, even though they've entered the workforce in larger numbers. So people talk about my hustle a lot and how I don't slow down. I'm a product of a single mom. My mom doesn't slow down still. So I think that that's a big place that we don't think about. So like there's a whole bunch of stuff there, Adrian. Like a whole lot of stuff.
I asked because first of all, I put it this way. I find it annoying whenever someone comes on to me and say, "What's it like to be black?" It's freaking incredible. That's what it's like to be black. But books exist. So I wouldn't want to be that guy who comes up to someone of a different gender or a different someone who bears a different identity than I do, and be that person saying, "Yo, what's it like to be a woman?" and all that. That, first of all, that's a weird question. What's it like to be a woman? And all that good stuff. But I am trying to like learn stuff so I cannot feed into the patriarchy that takes place in the society. I'm gonna tell you this. Okay. I don't know how much you follow sports. Most artists don't follow sports. Yes. Sorry for the categorizing. But most artists don't follow sports that much. This artist does. Love the NBA, grew up on the NBA. The NBA is the top dollar basketball program in the entire country, probably the entire world, right?
Right.
But the most competitive, most intense, most nail-biting, most on edge of your seat basketball game that I've seen recently was between two girls' high school basketball teams. It was like they were playing. It's like they were playing for $1 million or something. So I always say, women can do anything that men can do. When somebody said when the Bible talks about women being submissive to your husband, I ain't gonna lie. That I struggle with that a little bit.
Oh, we could get it in some biblical stuff because that whole submissive thing is what is that? 2 Timothy, right? And
I don't know.
It's not so it's one of the gospels that was not it's one of the books of the Bible that if you look at it was not written by the same author as the rest of the Bible. So there's that whole thing. I don't consider myself not really Christian anymore. I have been in the past. It's a lot of baggage. There's a lot that goes on. I think you can be spiritual without having to wrestle with the whole women being submissive to men thing in the Bible. Yeah, I think the real question is not whether women can do everything that men can do, but can men do everything that women do? Because
heck no,
bring some hustle.
I can't carry no daggone women. I mean, I can't carry no daggone babies. I have a hard enough time carrying my boys. If you okay, TMI, sorry. Anyway, yeah, I can't do what y'all. God, sheesh, y'all go through a lot, yo. Pregnancy. Your friend that visits, your monthly. You won't say it, right? I don't want to get too technical.
No, but see, like even the fact that we can't talk about that, Adrian, I had 4 babies, and I did natural childbirth for 3 of them. And I did natural childbirth almost all the way for my oldest, but that was not in the cards to keep us both safe. So women's bodies are powerful and women are powerful. And if we're going to talk patriarchy, we can talk about the whole notion that power has historically scared men. And so that's why they work so hard to control women, is because we are so powerful. Now, that doesn't denigrate men. To say that women are amazing creatures. Anything that bleeds for a month and for a week out of every month and doesn't die is an extraordinary creature. So, but there is a power to it. And I think if we look historically, that's why men try to subjugate women.
Well, so I was biting my tongue and hold myself back because I don't want to be rude or offensive to you. However, on my podcast, it's open season. I don't care. But yeah, I think that I think that that might come from a semblance of you know self self-deprecating, where one would doubt their abilities, therefore they thrust their potential trauma and their insecurities off on someone else. Me personally, as a very, very what's the word I'm looking for? Confident man, I have no problem with a woman being in charge. I have no problem with a woman having power. I would love to have had a woman president. I mean, but you will disagree with me when I say this, but the two women that have been offered up, heck nah, but a woman, someone else, yeah.
Well, and there's that. I think that one of the things that we really discount currently, and this goes back to that whole gender thing, and I'm a mom of I'm a mom of 3 boys. And so even like as a feminist and as somebody who wants to tear down the patriarchy, at the same time, there's a self-preservation thing for me. And there's also like a different window. And men can be really devalued. So we have this notion that women can do anything, which we can, but there's not that same thing given to men right now. And so you have young men who are growing up angry because they don't see a place for themselves. And that's not helpful for anybody either. So,
Well,
it's like we got to embrace men's ability to be feminine as much as we have to embrace women's ability to be masculine.
Well, you're freaking in my head. Yeah, I grew up. You're daggone right. I grew up angry. Shoot, I still struggle with anger and stuff. I'm trying to find a place where I could sit down and be with a puppy and watch all the clouds go by. But by the way, let me know when I'm stepping on your time. Where am I? How am I on time?
Yeah, I got maybe like another 5 minutes, man, and then I gotta go get my kid from fencing practice.
Fencing practice, yeah, you are on it. You are on it. Now, all this talk that we were doing about patriarchy and gender and stuff, do you have a published work about that?
I don't. It's interesting that you asked because of I'm on book number 24 currently. And of those 24, I have 3 that I've written for women, and the other 21 are written for men, which is interesting in and of itself because, like, who can afford a ghostwriter kind of thing? There's all kinds of reasons for that. I don't yet. I'm working on one. It's extraordinary. It is an extraordinary memoir of a woman leader, and that is going to be finished soon. And that will have a lot of themes about women's, and my name will be associated with it. She is just extraordinary. So, no, I don't. Well, I actually, you know what? I take that back. The feminist erotica novel. So, feminist erotica novel is actually like it's all kinds of spicy. It is not safe for work.
Vagina monologues or higher?
Think like 50 Shades of Grey, but not sounding like 50 Shades of Grey is its own beast. God love everybody who loves it. It's along that vein, but think more of it's more explicit than that. So, okay. But it's like along those veins. But the thing is, that book has got like I'm a freaking nerd, so it's got peer-reviewed references in the back about a feminist resources and feminist research, women's studies research that I did doing the book about empowering women through their sexuality and why that is so important. And it's really about like the mental health viewpoint of women's sexuality and how that can be a little bit complicated, but also how it can be really straightforward. So yeah, so that's like a really there you go. There's a feminist. I don't think about that because it's fiction, but that's a pretty big deal.
I'm about to say, did you just call me a feminist?
Well, and let me put a plug for the book. It's called Amy, Book 1. It has a flamingo on the cover. It's the audiobook is up on Audible right now. So
Well, good, because we have actually arrived to the point where I am rushing to get as much information out as possible, and I ask you, what you got coming up next, and have you plug all your projects. So, ready, set, go.
okay, so my book, Amy Book One, is being published through the University of Pleasure. Yeah, that's a real thing. And it's a podcast. And there you can Google University of Pleasure. You'll find this extraordinary podcast and more information about my book. My website is autumnkaren, AUTUMNKAREN.com. And on there, you can hire me to coach you. I offer coaching by the half hour, by the hour. And you can just go in there and like schedule it whenever, schedule a session. So there's that. And I think those are the big things that I've got to plug currently. There are other things coming down the pike always, but right now I'm mostly teaching. I teach at High Point University. I teach at UNCG, and then I raise my youngins. And so that's enough for me to do.
Well, okay. So real quick, in 2 minutes, real quick. What is the likelihood of you joining me in the playwright world?
In the playwright world, so I was recently admitted to the MFA program at the School of the Arts. So
so you already there.
So yeah, I've written a little bit. I will say that, like, hearing my books, I had a book that I ghostwrote transformed into an audiobook. It's been a few years ago, and it really it's freaking cool to hear your words coming out of somebody else's mouth.
It is, isn't it?
It is super cool. So I did I wrote a couple of plays for Goodly Frame, which is where you and I met, for their Zoom Fest. And then I dropped out of my PhD, so I don't have a terminal degree. I don't really want to go back and finish a doctorate, not at the moment anyway. So an MFA is it's the right decision. And I love the faculty at School of the Arts, and it's just a great, great place. So I'm excited about that. So I will be pivoting to that, but I run a little writing agency. So if you need writing work, I can accommodate that. I have writers who work for me, who do things, and then I coach. And so, yeah.
We gotta talk about that. Offline. Last thing, then I'm letting you go. I got one. I gotta ask. Autumn Karen, pen name or government name?
It's my first and middle name. I do use my pen name. When I wrote the book about the KKK, there was some ruckus about that. I never had a restraining order, but James did have restraining orders against white supremacists. And so I like to keep my identity as much on the down low, a little bit as possible, because you just don't know. People are weird. So yeah. I Karen, and like I picked that. Autumn Karen is my first and middle name. Karen was my aunt, who, there's a lot of death in my life, who passed away when my mom was young. And so I always thought of it as this beautiful name, and now it's like a slur. It's like Karen, if you call somebody a Karen, but whatever.
Okay, so your name is, you got the Karen part, but your name is also one of the best seasons of the year.
Right. Absolutely.
Right. And when you say a lot of death in your life, do I have consent to give you a virtual hug?
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Yes. Bring it on in.
But you know what? Everybody has a lot of hardship, and writing people's books, man, everybody has trauma. Like, we all have it. So
that's why I ordered this, so I can get an understanding of why my people act. How much generational PTSD is tied into my people. So this is going to help me with it. And also, I love this joint.
Good recommendations. Thank you so much, Adrian.
Absolutely. And also to anybody who watches this or hears this, read the book, all the books that you put out, which I wish you would have brought up, but hopefully I can have you back someday.
Absolutely. I'm happy anytime, Adrian. You're super fun. All right, I better go get this kid from his fencing, or else he's going to stab somebody in the eye.
Or he'll be like, "Mother, you're late."
That's how it's going to go. Thank you so much, Adrian. You were so fun to talk to.
Thank you. You're fun to talk to and informative as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, and so that was all on Karen. All on Karen. Yo, shout out to her. Yo, she got me wanting to dig even deeper into my writing bag. But one thing that I'm doing that takes advantage of my writing bag is, may I borrow $1? May I borrow $1? 110 West 7th Street, April 29th, 7 p.m. Free. It's free with a suggested donation of $10. You know, help a brother out because I am a nonprofit. I am a nonprofit. Quarles and Associates Creative Group Incorporated. So that was ADQ's Renaissance. And yo, I am going to dig further into this piece of literature that I bought yesterday. And I am going to let you all know what I think about it, and do some commentary on it. Because, yeah, how much trauma that's left over from slavery occurs in us as African people. We'll see. Till then, my people, friends. I don't know why. Probably because I spend 7.5 hours a day saying, "Hey, my friends, my friends, my friends." So another place you can check me out is tomorrow. I'm gonna be at the Artist Block. You know, they got open mic going on every second Friday of the month. I'm gonna be spitting some tracks from Prayers of a Few Niggas. Y'all should come pull up, check me out. And this has been ADQ's Renaissance. My lovely guest was Autumn Karen, who is not a Karen. And yo, you all have a wonderful, wonderful, incredible night. And also, here's a writing challenge. Find a way to tell the Friday story to kids in the most G-rated way possible. I do that every single Friday. I say, friends, I'm gonna tell you about my friends Smokey and Big Worm. Anyway, God bless y'all. Y'all have a wonderful, wonderful, incredible, epic evening. I'm ADQ. Peace.